Today I am going to give lecture on the topic Sale of Immovable Property under the Transfer of Property Act 1882. First, I will start my lecture with the definition of sale of immovable property. Section 54 of the Transfer of Property Act defines the meaning of sale. According to this section, sale is a transfer of ownership in exchange for a price paid or promise or part paid and part promise. So, from this definition, the consideration or the price of the sale can be paid fully at the time of execution of sale, or it may be agreed to be paid in the future, or may be partly paid and agreed to pay the remaining amount later on. So, we see that the mode of payment for sale may be as per the agreement between the seller and the buyer. A contract for sale of immovable property is the contract that the sale of such property shall take place according to the agreement between the seller and the buyer. Now, let us see who are the seller and the buyer. Seller is the person who conveys or delivers the property for the price or the consideration, and the buyer is the person who acquired the property. In other words, the person transferring the property is called the seller, and the person to whom the property is transferred is called the buyer. Now, let us discuss what are the essential elements of sale. The first one is the party. Whenever there is a contract of sale, there are two parties. They are the seller and the buyer. According to Section 11 of the Indian Contract Act 1872, both the seller and the buyer must be competent to contract. Here, competent to contract means both the buyer and the seller must be majored persons. That means they must have attained the age of majority and also must be of sound mind. Sound mind means their mental capability must be in such a condition that they will be able to understand what will be the consequences of their acts, and also they are not disqualified by the law in force. And in addition to that, the seller must be competent to transfer the property. That means he must have a title or the ownership to the property, which is the subject matter of sale. The seller must have the authority to transfer the property. The buyer must be a person who is qualified to be a transferee. That is to say, he must have the financial capacity to pay and willingness to buy the concerned property. The second essential element of sale is the subject matter of the sale. Here, under the Transfer of Property Act 1882, the subject matter of sale shall be immovable property, and the movable property is not included here. It may be tangible, immovable properties such as land, houses, or things attached to the art, or it may be intangible immovable property like right of ferries or fisheries, etc. The third essential element of sale is the transfer or conveyance. It is one of the important elements of sale. Here, the seller transfers the absolute ownership of the property to the buyer in a manner prescribed by law. The last essential element of sale is the consideration or price. The price is fixed by the agreement between the parties, that is the seller and the buyer. Unless the price is fixed, there is no enforceable contract. With this, I will wind up my lecture, and I hope that all of you must have cleared the concept of the definition of sale and its essential elements. Thank you.